Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Here, I am trying to share my conclusions, together with Tülin. In this video series, we talked before about what to talk and share with you.
Also, we don't pretend that we know it all. Let's emphasize this. It's not like telling you do this, don't do this. Rather, together we discuss, comment, compare. Sometimes, even as we read the pages, something strikes us as interesting that we didn't notice before. So, we are trying to proceed with our current understanding. Shall we restart reading?
Yes. Let's do that.
Universe is a whole. This whole is made of several parts that are different from each other, which we call worlds, systems, and realms. In the universe, each realm has a particular characteristic, and these characteristics are arranged according to the evolutionary needs of spirits. So, what we call primary matter or matter substance is an amorphous matter state, qualified by absolute motionless and formlessness, which constitutes the main matter or ferment of this whole universal. This substance, from the moment it first started to move, by becoming more and more complex, created stages accompanied by higher characteristic changes in comparison to each other. We call each of these matter stages nuclei or primary matter of the realms that fill up the matter universe and which display different attributes compared to each other. This is because the primary matter of these realms, which become milieux for manifestations which are more developed from each other, only have the ability to create the motions and forms particular to their own realms. So, the initial matter or atom of each realm is one of the ranges arrived at by the universe's original substance, in the journey ascending from its initial state to the universal whole. And each of these ranges carries the characteristic of that realm in its constitution. This is an intense paragraph. Please start Bilgehan. I am busy with making the screen seen in Instagram, too.
Now, again, amorphous, we previously read that part of the book, saying, there is a dark field which is impossible for mankind to understand. There is distinction that I want to remind you again. In space, the dark energy and dark matter that are calculated, not discovered because still there is no manifestation or imaging about it, we can only sense that as a state of nothingness, yet their influence. Their effects are explicit upon this field of space, on this cosmic cosmos. However, the amorphous matter state in the book is not the same. Because, the dark energy in dark matter is not passive but active, that is, in itself it is an influencer, and the proof is in the highly strong influence it exerts upon galaxies in fixing the rotational speed of them, no matter how vast their diameters are. So the dark matter and dark energy scientists talk about is strongly effective in the motions of galaxies. They are called dark because they can't be detected by our current measurement tools. We can't detect that type of matter. There are many laboratories all over the world, in the North Pole and one underground, to detect and observe dark matter, yet so far we couldn't, yet its influence exists. So, let's not confuse these with that.
In the book, it is clearly stated, and we previously explained that word dark defines the quality of the amorphous matter at the beginning of our own universe, which has not received any influence yet. And here, in this paragraph, it is nicely explained, an amorphous matter state, qualified by absolute motionless and formlessness, which constitutes the main matter or ferment of this whole universal. In this sentence, the book points to that matter which has not received any influence. Another important phrase is worlds, systems and realms, that is, there is a universe, a whole, but within it there are all worlds. Not only ours, systems as we call ours the solar system, and the realm or cosmos of our material cosmos, which the book will define later as the hydrogen cosmos. So this means that although the universe is a whole, there are many parts of it. Parts in the sense of pieces that make up a whole. And when we say parts making up a whole, it also expresses a wholeness. I think this needs to be underlined.
Yes, as you just mentioned, this word of worlds makes me think. We call our planet as our world. It is a name like Mars or Venus. So it implies there are other worlds of application in our universe where the beings that reach the human stage and have humanoid bodies and those planets are in other solar systems. In other parts of the book, this will be detailed, but here, the word worlds implies this, otherwise they could say planets instead.
In fact, I think this sentence also points to the scope of the universe. I am sure you have seen those wonderful videos created by scientists. Videos comparing the sizes of things, starting from a small point and zoom out to another system containing it, up to the biggest. So you see within a system, in the micro level there is a magnificently immense universe, and also there is a magnificently immense universe, the macro level. And we, as the Earth or the world, are smaller than a tiny dot within that system.
Yes. Exactly.
Here, maybe we need to elaborate on this phrase, which are more developed from each other. This Ottoman Turkish word means unfolded, revealed, discovered, emerged, so here we can think it as manifested, emerged from each other, developed from each other like holons. Here, also, even the very limited part of the manifestations we discovered so far, there is immense depth. And the book continues to say, there is a substance of the matter you discovered so far. It has a main or primary matter of it. Initially there was no influence on that matter, and with the incoming influence, the primary matter, the first atom of the hydrogen cosmos emerged. We had discussed the first atom, first hydrogen atom, which had emerged through the matter that gained motion with the first influence. But this first hydrogen atom is not the hydrogen in our current periodic table. The hydrogen we now know is much more complex. It is a very complex and highly developed version of that first hydrogen atom, which by internalizing that first influence and then becoming developed and more emerged through myriad manifestations, by gathering and dispersing, again and again. I wanted to underline this again.
Yes, as we said, the universe is made up of cosmoses. And the matter universe has many different cosmoses. We can't say they are in layers or concentric, yet the book later will talk about concentric realms, but it is only for facilitating our understanding. So, there is structure that is made up of cosmoses, in our matter universe. And there is an initial matter or primary matter of each cosmos, here it tells us. There is an original matter that is amorphous, related to the beginning of the universe, and also, following that, there is a main or primary matter of each cosmos, particular to the process of each cosmos development. This is such a matter that all properties that cosmos will need in its process of development is inherent in that matter, and it will reveal these properties as a response to the influences that will come following the original influence. So that matter has all properties of that cosmos. That is, the key matter of that cosmos. For example, in our hydrogen atom universe that we are in now, the name is obvious. This universe's primary matter is hydrogen atom.
The primary matter of any realm is the initial matter of that realm. In this initial matter, there is the essence of all states and forms particular to that realm. The component that creates these states and forms is motion, and the quality and character of the motions are different in a manner to give birth to each realm's own properties. That is, there are separate forms of motions particular to each realm. Therefore, because the atom or nucleus, which is the initial primary matter of a realm, has not yet revealed the motions of that realm, it is in a motionless and amorphous state. These initial atoms, by displaying and varying, increasing and accelerating initial motions, gradually make up all states and forms particular to that realm. As matter descends from above to below, the appearance of their progress from motion to motionless, from activity to inertia, as an immutable rule constitutes the scientific observation of this truth. The highest and most developed matter are those that have the most complex motions. In contrast, as matter descends below, in the development hierarchy their motions lessen, they regress to simpler states, and eventually they assume a state which is near to zero in regard to possibilities of motion in that realm. It explains it very well. In fact, it is so clear.
Yes, yes. It is enough to know that there is a primary matter for each realm. I think this is the info we need to grasp here. In each realm, in each stage of development, in each scale identified as a cosmos, there is an initial matter state, and this initial state is inherent, and these properties are revealed as needed, and we call this initial matter of each realm as its primary matter.
So, as a summary, there is an original matter state that is called the primary matter of our hydrogen cosmos. Before the influence arrives at it, it is motionless and amorphous, and after the influence comes to it, motion starts in it. It becomes varied, increased, accelerated. It displays all other successive states of matter to occur as it receives influences, just as the book says, as stages.
Now, the component that creates these states and forms is motion. I previously mentioned that whenever you see motion in this book, think it as vibration. However, here, there is an interesting point made. I noticed it later. Yes, it is vibration, but this is a type of vibration particular to our hydrogen realm. This is an important point because the book continues by saying, and the quality and character of the motions are different in a manner to give birth to each realm's own properties. So, motion is a very significant word, but we can't think it only as vibration. So, we can't claim that the matter of the plan of duty would be about vibration. As if, vibration will be a motion which would be left behind. Leaving it behind doesn't mean we have no use for it, on the contrary, it means that we learnt it, we can use it.
So, the book says it at this last paragraph. The highest and most developed matter are those that have the most complex motions. So, there is a hierarchy here. Shall we continue? The reduction in the motion of matter as it descends offers another valuable observation. Since this reduction in the motions of matter and their simplification necessitates matter becoming more primitive, the reduction and simplification of influences external to that matter result in the corresponding reduction and simplification of that matter's motions. For example, those who observe the structure of hydrogen and uranium atoms will see the truth of this. The hydrogen atom is a matter state qualified by the motions of innumerable qualities and quantities. The uranium atom, which is a more complex form of this atom, carries within it many times more complex motions. Moreover, the influence of a hydrogen atom on its surroundings is less than uranium's. So, the abundance of influences uranium has on its surroundings, compared to those of hydrogen, shows that it is receiving more influences than hydrogen does. Since the influences only manifest through the motions they cause in matter, the motions of uranium atoms are much greater and more complex than those of hydrogen atoms. Nevertheless, here, uranium sending out more influences to its surroundings reflects the fact that it receives more influences. That is, it is displaying the reactions of the incoming influences accordingly. 4. No influence is unilateral, and in matter neither does a reaction occur without an action, nor is there an action that remains without a response. This is such a nice sentence. 4. No influence is unilateral, and in matter neither does a reaction occur without an action, nor is there an action that remains without a response. We have a video clip to share at this point, don't we?
I was impatiently waiting for this moment to share it. When I first read this part, I remembered that video clip. I sent my gratitude to higher plans for this complimentary visual because when I watched it for the first time, I somehow knew that there will be a time to share it in this context.
You go on. I am displaying the part we just read for our friends on Instagram.
Then, let me give a brief introduction to the content of this video clip. First, it is about uranium. Second, it is about action and reaction. Third, how an influence needs to be attuned to a matter for affecting it. This last point is very important. As the book says, it needs to become reduced, to become cruder. If the influence aims a crude matter, then it has to become cruder. If it aims a more complex matter, then it has to be attuned to it. You will see this in this video clip. Also, the book makes it clear that what we call influence is nothing but the interaction of matter, right away at its 12th page. So, this is it. That is, we can't say, well, we were expecting to read something loftier or exalted, something invisible, incomprehensible, otherwise we don't like it. We need to stop this kind of Platonic approach, dear friends. We are in a matter universe. In the matter universe, there is nothing else but matter. But of course, there are many subtler variations of matter, even what we consider as sublimated or lofty are still variations of matter, they are the appearances of the spiritual development in us. When we say it is all matter, some people think it as a bad or lowly thing. We just understand from the book that this is a divine process, divine order, and this order is organized and governed in the most useful way by the beings in duty for the evolution of spirits, under the governance and supervision of the original principle, and it starts and continues by the initial influences sent by the original principle. Therefore, when we say, influence, don't expect anything lofty. Even us, when we started to study the book, had some problems understanding it. Sublimation exists when we don't know something. The moment we know something, loftiness of it ceases. Yet, the human nature, human psychology expects to find some kind of sublimation in such high-level knowledge. It is understandable, it is right to expect this, but when human mind learns it, its sublimation ceases. The best example for this is us when we were cavemen. We all lived in prehistoric times. Thunder rumbled, lightning struck, and we were afraid of the skies, we were awed by it. That was lofty for us. Imagine, now you walk in the street and you hear thunder, do you say, we are doomed? Skies or gods are angry at us.
Because we solved its mechanism.
Yes, it is only a mechanism for us and we understood it. So, it is not lofty anymore.
So, in this case, there was an increase, a widening in our comprehension.
Exactly. Yet to understand it like this and digest it, to be honest, is a little bit unsettling. I admit it. Likewise, sun was, planets were, and stars were lofty for us, but as we came to understand them and their mechanisms, their loftiness ceased as well. And now, we are in the threshold of understanding the interactions of more complex matter, and we consider whatever we don't understand yet as sublime, lofty, etc. Let me clarify this point. What I said doesn't mean that there is no creator. It means that we try to understand the divine mechanisms, the divine order.
There are questions regarding this, such as if there are many realms, do they also have a creator or power that may be named differently? Isn't it better say unfolding of matter instead of development of matter? Amorphous matters becoming complex by the influence isn't lofty or divine enough. So, these correspond to what you say in a nice way. Yes, from these pages we understand that our universe's structure is matter, but after a few pages, the book will ask that question, how did this motion begin? How did the first influence arrive at this system? What was the source of that influence? So, we will read those parts that our friends also pointed at.
How do we break the nucleus? Do we push a needle into it?
We have a nucleus like this, heavier than iron. Nuclei that are created in the universe, inside supernovas, that contain immense energy accumulated within, like uranium, plutonium, etc. What is it? A group of protons and neutrons. These protons and neutrons are like huge and unhappy family. When someone comes from outside and sow discord among these, this family will subdivide right away. So, what do? We send a neutron to it, from outside.
Seed of discord?
We sow a seed of discord inside of it. Upon this already not so together family gets subdivided. There's no need to do something extra. We need only to nudge it.
Yes, but how do you nudge it?
Nudging is made with a neutron at a certain speed. If we send it too fast or too slow, it doesn't work. We send a thermal neutron, close to the room temperature speeds, and they strike and the nucleus divides. If we put one of them under such a process, some nuclei keep doing it on behalf of us. Especially uranium's isotope that we call 235. These are such nucleus that when you send the neutron, they divide, and as they divide, it kicks out 2 or 3 close-by neutrons. So when you explode a nucleus by sending a neutron, among the particles a few new neutrons scatter around, and if you put other uranium nuclei on the path of these new neutrons these new neutrons explode other nuclei.
Chain reaction.
Therefore, as this unhappy family breaks apart, one of its members runs away to break another family apart, and others coming out of it go and break other families apart. So, in a chain, the whole uranium community breaks apart.
All right, but I couldn't understand the triggering. Is there something like a gun?
We have neutron sources. There are materials that are not stable and emanating neutrons. If you put enough amount of uranium together, even only one of them becomes unstable and emanates. Others will follow.
In the movies, we see they open a bag. There are containers with some liquid.
In that sense, if we talk about not triggering the decay of a single nucleus but a macro one, then that story usually goes like this. We said that decay scatters new neutrons. These new neutrons go out in high speeds, and when they arrive at other uraniums, due to their high speed, they can go through them in quantum-wise.
Without subdividing?
Without subdividing, they can go through. So, this process is not so easily happen. So, what to do? Remember those neutrons going away on their paths. You must break them a little. They need to go slower in the suitable speed so they can strike the uranium.
Can you write this equation?
Yes, many details need to be specific, arranged, in which probability percentage, and in which speed it can subdivide or in which speed it goes through. These are all computed. In suitable amounts, you add substances that are called moderator. This may be water or graphite. These slow down neutrons, and when these slowed down neutrons strike and activate others. So, things in the bag means you bring enough amount of uranium together, so there will be a mass of it and suitable moderators in between them. So consequently, chain reaction doesn't happen by itself.
So, were the bombs USA used in Japan like this?
So, how will these two come together? At the time I wanted. As to those bombs, an electronic triggering mechanism used. But, basically, it is a matter of bringing those material together and they will do the rest.
Is your field nuclear physics?
My field is particle physics. The difference between these two is, the particles I study are much, much smaller than the nucleus. If it were 1960s, and because back then the smallest building block was nucleus, then particle physicist was equal to nuclear physicist. But because now we know much smaller things than the nucleus, my field is about sublevel compared to it.
I didn't delete this last part of the video by purpose. If it were 1960s, he says, we could only be studying nucleus, so we would be called nuclear physicists, but now we are particle physicists. Why? Because now we study subatomic particles. So, considering the timeline of this book, compiled in 1958 to 59, this is another self-confirmation on the book's part. Now, I will reread this part and please check if it means more things to you. Moreover, the influence of a hydrogen atom on its surroundings is less than uranium's. So, the abundance of influences uranium has on its surroundings, compared to those of hydrogen, shows that it is receiving more influences than hydrogen does. So, in the video it is explained in many ways that this complex and almost unstable state of the uranium atom, in the brink of instability but somehow stable, is possible only by an influence in a suitable or calibrated speed to it.
So, what we see here is a simulation, an example of the occurrences of the beginning.
Exactly.
Mechanism works in the same way. As in the video, it is about activating current. Lie, we try to repeat it by giving that influence from outside. It is an example of the first influence coming from outside to the amorphous matter and activating it, and that influence is from the original PRI. Insightful. Soon we will be reading a.
Here, the point I'd like to make is, the beginning of a huge outcome is just a single particle. A single influence. And now, humankind had solved the problem of making that minute adjustment. In that sense, we are very advanced. Don't think it like science only, that scientists know this but we don't. In the consciousness, humankind now knows this. I am not talking about formulas and know-how of it. I talk about the synchronization that we call harmony, and we begin to sense what harmony means in these pages, and in the further pages of the book, we will read that harmony is the only aim.
Yes. Let's summarize. No influence is one-sided, and when an influence comes, matter reacts to this action. It responds. Even if matter is amorphous, its substance has this property.
So, maybe our friends ask or think that how information or our thoughts influence matter. It is the same mechanism. If it is a principle, the same principle must work here. And I can tell that it does, like this. Thoughts are the electromagnetic waves that our brain produces, or influences from our thinking. They even are called as information byte, and it depends on the power of these information bytes you produce and whether they are in sync with the matter of the thing you want to influence.
Shall we continue? All state transitions and all the ways in which forms take place and change are only possible through the motions and diversification of motions. Therefore, the primary matter of our realm which has not yet exhibited any motions should hardly have any state and form particular to our world at all. That is why we call it amorphous. That is, the formless matter of our realm. Thus, primary M. Matter is a reality which can only be conceived and accepted theoretically in the face of our comprehension of the world, and expresses an apparent absence. And this reality, in order to take particular forms appropriate to our world, needs to gain many values that belong to the earthly sphere and go through many developmental stages.
Well, here, I am becoming more and more sure that this word, motion, is really established in our minds. So we truly understand that the myriad variations of the hydrogen that is the primary matter of our hydrogen cosmos, from its crudest state, that is the amorphous state to its subtlest state is actually about this motion's myriad variations, it's becoming faster or slower. Yes. All state transitions, formation, deformation, all of these are in fact revealing of the property that is inherent, hidden in the primary matter of hydrogen cosmos as the necessity. And where this necessity originates? Spiritual development. During spirit's evolution, it needs matter, but matter that is more and more complex. This is the origin of this need. And this right away makes itself obvious. We will read more about it later as we learn more about original principle.
By the way, dear friends, it's almost 10 p.m. I thought it was earlier.
Let me comment on this last sentence. Needs to gain many values that belong to the earthly sphere and go through many developmental stages. I think, because we made a clear start, I am sure all of our friends, not many but all of them, understand it very well. Still, I'd like to mention it, many values that belong to the earthly sphere. Well, remember how our elements occurred? They occurred by many gatherings, formations, and each gathering, grouping allowed a new element's emergence in matters revealing its more developed states. So, all elements make up the earthly sphere matter in this way and their level of development vary accordingly. Only their formations, gatherings, groupings create a difference. H2O emerges, water occurs, iron sulfate emerges, rust occurs, etc. So in this way they create different formations and deformations.
Yes, for the next week. Let's stop tonight by giving some clues by asking the same question the divine order and the universe asks. How come that primary matter, despite the fact that it is comparatively inert and motionless, that is, devoid of the motions of our realm, starts to go through some developmental stages by assuming forms that have innumerable motions? So, how come all these happened? We will talk about it next week.
Let's meet next week.
Yes, we hope this video series is helpful for you. At least, we both are having fun, aren't we?
Yes. Lots of fun. Mondays are important for me. I don't have Monday syndrome anymore.
We think that even these lockdown days are productive. We don't intend to share some information here, but because all of us focus on the same point, actually we try to elevate out vibrations, to go beyond our current states of mind, to open up, to reveal. Well, in fact, we try to start new motions in our beings. So, please do not consider what we do in this video series as solely reading the book. In a sense, each of us, wherever we direct our concentration, at that point comprehension increases. We hope that we go further together. And I say this many times that our comments are things we can grasp by our current awareness. So they may be lacking, may be complemented, may be later completed. So it is never the absolute. Even the divine order and the universe doesn't claim that it is the final knowledge, but this is a bridge knowledge.
Yes, you nicely put it. I think there is no need to say more, right now. So, let's say goodnight to our friends.
Yes, we wish you good night and a good week. Hoping to see you next week at 8:30 p.m. Goodbye, dear friends.